What if I told you the greatest battles you'll ever face are not with other people, but within your own mind? What if you could walk through the storms of life completely untouched? Think of the last time someone hurt you with words, or the last moment you felt your heart race from stress, anger, or anxiety. Most of us believe emotions like these are natural and unavoidable. But what if they aren't? What if you've been taught to react, but never to respond with wisdom? In this video, we're not just talking about emotions, we're going to reclaim them. You'll learn 7 Buddhist principles, not as abstract teachings, but as living practices that can dissolve your anger, calm your fears, and bring you back to peace no matter what chaos surrounds you. And by the end of this journey, I'll share a bonus principle so powerful it could forever change how you experience pain and peace alike. So take a deep breath, leave your distractions behind, and let's walk together into the heart of emotional freedom. Gujid. Teaching number 1. Starve the fire of reaction, how to stop feeding what burns you. Imagine this. Someone insults you on a bad day. Your heart rate spikes. You feel heat in your chest. Without thinking, you snap back. You argue, shout, defend yourself. But hours later, you're still fuming at the other person. They've moved on. Now ask yourself, did you win or did you burn? Buddhism teaches a profound truth. Anger is not something to be expressed or suppressed, it is something to be starved. Anger is not power. Anger is fire. And every time you react to it, you throw wood into its flames. Most people believe emotional outbursts are a release, that letting it out somehow brings relief. But let's observe closely. Has expressing anger ever truly left you in peace, or did it leave a trail of regret? The Buddha compared anger to grasping hot coals with the intention of throwing them at someone else but burning yourself first. That's what overreaction does. You don't win, you wound yourself. Let's look at a real example. A father comes home after a frustrating day at work. On his commute, someone cut him off. He honked, cursed, arrived at the cafe where the barista got his order wrong. Again, he snapped. By the time he reaches home, his child spills milk on the floor. It's a small accident, but he explodes. Later that night, guilt floods in. It wasn't about the milk. It wasn't about the coffee. It wasn't about the traffic. It was about the fire he kept feeding, and now it burned the people he loved. This is the truth most people miss. Your reactions are never about the present moment. They're the echo of unobserved emotions from earlier triggers. So what does Buddhist practice ask of us? Not to suppress, not to act, but to observe. The next time you feel that heat rising, pause. Don't react. Imagine that urge as a match. You can strike it or you can let it sit. If you don't light it, there is no fire. That is your power. Here's a practical exercise. When you feel anger, label it softly in your mind. Anger is present. Take one conscious breath. Watch your breath like a leaf floating down a stream. Notice what happens to the feeling when you don't react to it. This simple act of mindful observation can dissolve even the fiercest anger, not overnight, but gradually, like fire that runs out of oxygen. When you no longer give fuel to your reactivity, the fire cannot survive. You become something greater than reactive. You become still. And that stillness is not passivity, it is power. Because the strongest person in the room is never the one who shouts the loudest. It's the one who can look rage in the face and choose peace. Let that be your training ground. Choose one breath over one outburst, one pause over one punchline, one moment of awareness over a lifetime of regret. You don't need to fight your emotions. Just stop feeding them. Let the fire die. Teaching number 2. Cut the strings of reactivity freedom through emotional detachment. Let's start with a metaphor the Buddha might have appreciated. Imagine you're a puppet. Every time someone disrespects you, pulls away from you, or pushes your buttons, you react. It's as if they tug a string and you move. They ignore your message. You feel anxious. They disapprove. You shrink or defend. They praise you. You feel high. Up, down, up, down. Your peace rises and falls depending on other people's actions, moods, or words. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If they can pull your strings, then they own your peace. The second core teaching in mastering emotions, according to Buddhist psychology, is emotional detachment, not coldness, not apathy, but freedom. It means cutting those invisible strings that bind your inner world to external triggers. You can't control the wind, a Zen master once said, but you can adjust your sail. Reactivity is when you let the wind control your ship. Detachment is when you sail your own course, regardless of the storm. Emotional detachment is not equal to emotional suppression. This is where many people misunderstand. Detachment is not suppression. It's not pretending you don't care. It's caring without clinging, feeling without drowning, loving without losing yourself. It's standing in the fire without being burned. In Buddhist teachings, this is called upekkha, or equanimity, a balanced state of mind, where you observe the emotion but don't become the emotion. Real life story. The woman at the airport. A woman named Leah once shared her story of an emotional transformation. She was waiting at the airport for her flight after a long, exhausting work trip. Her gate was changed 3 times. People were loud. A stranger bumped into her and didn't apologize. The final straw? The flight was delayed another 3 hours. She felt herself unraveling, irritated, on the verge of tears. But then she remembered something she heard in a mindfulness retreat. This moment is not happening to you, it's just happening. She paused. She watched her irritation rise like a wave. But she didn't speak, didn't text her frustration, didn't feed it. She sat, felt it, and it passed. For the first time in years, she didn't let the situation dictate her internal peace. That's the moment she cut the string. Buddhist insight. The ox is wild until you gently tame it. Buddhism often compares the mind to a wild oxet, thrashes, bucks, and bolts when left untrained. Reactivity is the ox charging every time it hears a noise. But the Buddha didn't say, kill the ox. He said, tame it. Through awareness and gentle detachment, you train the mind not to be yanked around by every stimulus. A rude comment? That's their karma. A delay? That's life. A praise? Beautiful, but it doesn't change your worth. You become less of a puppet and more of the puppeteer. Practice the inner cord cutting ritual. Try this for 1 week. Every time you feel triggered, pause and say mentally, this is a string. I can pull it or I can release it. Then ask, does reacting serve my peace? Will I regret this in 10 minutes? Who do I become if I let this go? Even just the awareness of choice is powerful. Each moment becomes an opportunity for liberation. Won, the deeper lesson. Emotional detachment is not about disconnecting from life. It's about reconnecting to your center. You're not cold, you're clear. You're not indifferent, you're independent. You're not passive, you're powerful. When your peace no longer depends on external validation, you walk through life grounded, free from the chaos that governs most minds. The Buddha taught, "He who is not attached to pleasure or pain, gain or loss, praise or blames, is truly free." And freedom is the ultimate peace. Teaching number 3. Break the illusion of control, the power of surrender. Let's begin with a hard truth. Most of the suffering in your life doesn't come from what happens. It comes from your need to control what happens. We try to control everything: how people see us, how fast success arrives, when love will appear, whether the outcome goes our way. And when things don't unfold the way we imagined, we feel anxious, frustrated, betrayed by life itself. But what if that grip you need to manage every detail is the very thing blocking your peace? In Buddhist teachings, suffering dukkha is rooted in attachment. And attachment to control is one of the subtlest and most persistent forms. Buddhist metaphor: holding the rope too tight. Imagine you're holding a rope that's pulling you. The harder you resist, the more it burns your hands. But if you let go, the pain stops. Control is that rope, and surrender is not giving up. It's choosing not to be burned. The Buddha never taught us to control life. He taught us to understand it, flow with it, and respond to it wisely. Real life story. The father at the hospital. Consider this true story from a Buddhist teacher in New Zealand. A father rushed his child to the hospital after a serious accident. The doctors said they'd do their best, but couldn't promise anything. The father's first instinct was panic. He tried to demand updates, tried to understand every procedure, tried to fix the fear through control. But a wise nurse pulled him aside and said gently, "You can't control the outcome, but you can choose how your child feels while you wait." So the father did something radical. He stopped trying to control. He sat by his child's side, held her hand, told her stories, laughed with her, prayed silently. The situation didn't change, but he did. He surrendered to the moment, and in that surrender, peace entered the room. Buddhist teaching: let go, let Dharma flow. In many sutras, the Buddha reminds us that everything unfolds according to Dharmathe, natural law. You cannot force a seed to bloom. You can only nurture the conditions and wait for nature to take its course. Trying to control Dharma is like screaming at the sun to rise faster. It's futile. Worse, it steals your presence. Let go of what you think should be, says the Dhammapada, and accept what is. In that space, truth is revealed. Modern insight: control is exhausting, surrender is freeing. Control isn't power, it's pressure. It exhausts your nervous system. It creates imaginary battles in your mind. You try to control how others see you, you'll live in fear. You try to control your partner's behavior, you'll live in anxiety. You try to control the timing of your success, you'll live in tension. But when you surrender, a strange thing happens. Life opens up, peace returns, joy sneaks in. It's like trying to push a river upstream versus floating downstream with trust. Practice the open hands ritual. Once a day, pause and look at your hands. Clench your fists tightly for 10 seconds. Feel the tension. This is control. Now open your hands, slowly feel the release. This is surrender. Ask yourself, what am I trying to force today? Can I show up with love without needing to control the result? What would it feel like to open my hands mentally and emotionally? You'll be amazed at how much energy returns when you stop trying to manage everything. Weigh the deeper lesson. Surrender doesn't mean apathy. It means wisdom. It means you show up, you care deeply, you plant good seeds, but you don't grip the outcome like it's your identity. A monk once said, "Before enlightenment, I tried to control everything. After enlightenment, I realized I never needed to." Surrender is the quiet confidence that you're supported by something larger than your plans. It's choosing to ride the wave rather than fight the ocean. Peace is not found in domination. It's found in trust. And when you master this, your emotions no longer whip you around. You become still because your peace no longer depends on things going your way. Teaching number 4. Speak from stillness, the power of right speech. In a world that constantly speaks, those who speak from stillness are rare and powerful. Every day, we utter thousands of words. We fill rooms, phones, comments, and hearts with sound. But how often do we stop to ask, where are these words coming from? Fear or peace? Ego or truth? The Buddha taught that words are not neutral. They either create peace or fuel chaos. They are seeds we plant in the minds and hearts of others, and they always grow into something. Speak only the speech that does not torment self or others. That is truly noble speech. Dhammapada. This is right speech, not just speaking kindly, but speaking consciously with the full awareness of the power carried in your voice. The fire of words, a Buddhist reflection. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha warned of 4 types of harmful speech: false speech, lies; slanderous speech, dividing others; harsh speech, angry, cruel words; idle chatter, speech with no purpose. He didn't condemn words, but asked us to honour them, because speech isn't just communication, it's creation. A harsh word can end a friendship. A careless rumour can destroy a reputation. An angry outburst can wound a soul for life. But on the other hand, a gentle truth can heal old pain. A kind word can uplift a stranger. A moment of silence can speak deeper than noise. The still lake within. The Buddha often compared the mind to water. A still lake reflects the moon clearly. A disturbed one only shows distortion. Similarly, when our mind is calm, our words carry clarity. When agitated, our words carry our wounds. Right speech is not just what you say, but where you speak from. Do your words arise from reaction or reflection? From pain or from peace? When your heart is still, your words become medicine. Real life story. The Silent Father. A Zen teacher once shared a story about a student who struggled with his teenage son. Every conversation turned into an argument. The father, desperate for help, asked the teacher what to say to fix the tension. The teacher replied, "Before you speak, don't. Sit beside him in silence for 1 week. No fixing, no advice, just presence." The father followed the advice. At first, the silence was awkward, but over the week, something softened. The son began to open up, not because of what the father said, but because of what he no longer needed to say. From that silence, new words were born, gentler, truer, more honest, not noise, but understanding. Practice. The 3 gates of speech. Before speaking, ask yourself, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If the answer to any is no, let it remain unspoken. This is not censorship, it is compassion. Words, once released, cannot be taken back, but when used with mindfulness, they can liberate. Emotional wisdom. Words as mirrors. Your words reveal your emotional state. If you're angry, you speak to defend. If you're insecure, you speak to impress. If you're peaceful, you speak to connect. Right speech begins not in the mouth, but in the mind, and it matures in the heart. You can train yourself to pause, to breathe, to let the storm settle before you respond. Because that pause, that's where freedom begins. Modern application. From arguments to awareness. Imagine this. You're in an argument. You feel misunderstood. Your instinct is to raise your voice, prove your point. But instead of reacting, you pause. You notice the heat in your chest, the story rising in your mind. You say nothing for now. Later, when the emotion has passed, you speak. Calmly, clearly, respectfully. And the result? You're heard. Because peace listens to peace. This is emotional mastery through right speech, not silence out of fear, but stillness out of wisdom. The deeper lesson. Right speech is the bridge between inner peace and outer peace. It's how we extend our mindfulness into the world. Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace. Buddha. When you speak with awareness, your words carry your stillness. And in a noisy, reactive world, your calm voice becomes a sanctuary. So speak not to impress, but to express truth. Speak not to win, but to connect. Speak from the still lake within, because words born from silence echo the deepest truths. Teaching number 5. Feel it. Don't feed it. Emotional alchemy through awareness. You are not your anger. You are not your fear. You are the awareness watching those emotions rise, move, and eventually fade. But most of us don't live as the watcher, we live as the storm. We react, we explode, we suppress, or we numb. We try to control emotions like enemies rather than listen to them like sacred messengers. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Buddha. This simple truth reveals a hidden power. Emotions, when witnessed without judgment, lose their power to control you. That's the heart of emotional alchemy, transforming inner turmoil, not by resisting it, but by welcoming it with full awareness. Emotions are visitors, not residents. In Buddhism, emotions are not inherently good or bad. They are impermanent states like clouds across the sky. The issue is not the emotion itself, it's what we do with it. Anger arises. Do you explodia observe? Sadness visits. Do you spiraler sit beside it? Anxiety appears. Do you feed the fearer breathe through it? The more you resist emotion, the more it persists. The more you observe it, the faster it dissolves. This is the path of transformation. Feel it fully, but don't feed it blindly. Real life story. The tea kettle. A mindfulness teacher once told the story of a woman named Elise, who struggled with anger. She'd try to suppress it, telling herself, "I'm fine," until one day she would erupt, yelling, crying, or retreating into guilt. The teacher gave her an image. Your anger is like a tea kettle. If you keep the lid tight and turn up the heat, it will eventually scream. But if you lift the lid gently, let the steam out mindfully, it will never boil over. That changed everything for Elise. Instead of pretending her feelings weren't there, she began to sit with them quietly, without blame. She learned to feel her anger without feeding the stories behind it. And in that practice, her rage transformed into clarity. Geuj. Buddhist wisdom. The fire and the fuel. The Buddha used a powerful metaphor. Emotions are like fires. They need fuel to stay alive. What is the fuel? The stories you replay in your mind. the judgments you place on yourself, the resistance to what is. When you stop feeding the fire, it goes out. This is emotional alchemy, not the suppression of fire, but the transformation of it into light. Modern application. Watch the thought, not the drama. Try this the next time an intense emotion arises. Name it. This is anger. This is fear. Naming creates space. Locate it. Where is it in your body? Your chest, stomach, shoulders? Stay with it. Don't try to fix or flee it. Breathe into it. Don't tell stories. Don't add fuel like, they always treat me this way. Just stay present. Watch it shift. Emotion, once fully felt without judgment, transforms. Emotions are like waves. You can't stop them from coming, but you can learn to surf. Practice the 90-second rule. Neuroscientist Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor discovered that when you feel an emotion, the chemical response lasts only 90 seconds unless you choose to keep reactivating it through thought. In Buddhism, this supports mindfulness. Feel it. Stay. Let go. You don't need to fear your emotions. You need to befriend them. Because every emotion, no matter how painful, is a teacher in disguise. Emotional wisdom. What you feel isn't who you are. Most people think, I am angry. But Buddhism invites us to say, I feel anger, but I am not it. That difference is everything. You are the sky, not the storm. You are the container, not the content. You are not broken because you feel deeply. You're awake. And awakening means learning not to run from pain, but to bow to it, listen to it, and allow it to soften you. When we allow ourselves to be touched by suffering, we become more human, not less. Thich Nhat Hanh. 1. The deeper truth. Peace does not come from having no emotion. It comes from no longer being controlled by emotion. When you learn to feel without feeding, your entire life shifts. Anger becomes assertiveness. Sadness becomes empathy. Fear becomes alertness. And joy, it deepens because it's no longer dependent on escape. This is the emotional alchemy that Buddhist wisdom offers, not by fighting what you feel, but by becoming so aware of it that you transcend it. Feel everything, feed nothing, and watch your emotions turn from enemies into teachers. Teaching number 6. Pause before you pass it on breaking the cycle of emotional inheritance. Before you raise your voice, before you roll your eyes, before you say something you'll regret, pause. That tiny gap between what you feel and what you do, that is where your freedom lives. That is where karma either repeats or ends. Emotional energy is inherited. Many of us are carrying emotions that aren't even ours. A short temper passed down from an impatient father. Anxiety modelled by a fearful mother. Shame planted by teachers, coaches, or culture. And what happens when we don't heal it? We pass it on. To our children, to our partners, to strangers in traffic. If you don't transform your pain, you will transmit it. Richard Rohr. Buddhism teaches us this clearly. Every action is a seed, and every reaction, when unconscious, becomes the next generation of suffering. Real story, the broken plate. A student once told her Zen teacher she was angry at herself for yelling at her daughter. She broke a plate, and I just exploded. I became my mother in that moment. The teacher gently asked, "Did your mother often yell?" "Yes," she said. "It was constant." He paused, then said, That wasn't your voice yelling, it was your mother's voice echoing through you. The practice now is not to feel shame, but to wake up and stop the echo. That day, she didn't just apologize to her daughter. She also sat in silence and cried, breaking a cycle generations long. Buddhist insight. Karma is habitual energy. In Buddhism, karma doesn't just mean punishment or reward. It means habit, energy, the repeated actions, words, and thoughts that shape our future. When we feel anger and lash out unconsciously, we're reinforcing karmic patterns. But when we pause, we interrupt that stream. We turn karma into consciousness. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. Viktor Frankl. That space is mindfulness. That space is liberation. Practice the sacred pause. Here's a powerful Buddhist technique used by monastics and lay practitioners alike. When emotion arises, stop, literally pause your body. Place your hand on your chest or stomach. Breathe. Take 3 slow, conscious breaths. Anchor into the present. Name, say silently, "This is irritation," or "This is fear." Naming dissolves merging. Choose, ask, what action ends the cycle here? Often, doing nothing is the highest form of wisdom. Because when you stop the emotional chain reaction, you save a life yours, and the one you would have passed it to. Family example. Ending the generational storm. A man named Ryan shared how he grew up with a father who punished through silence days without speaking. Years later, Ryan caught himself giving his wife the silent treatment during conflict. He wasn't trying to hurt her. He was repeating what had been modelled. But awareness cracked the pattern. He learned to say, "I need time, but I love you. I'll come back when I'm ready." That single sentence, conscious, honest, and kind, saved his marriage. And his children will grow up seeing a new kind of man. The chain broke. Buddhist parable. The angry son. The Buddha told a story of a man whose son died. In his grief, he lashed out at the Buddha, blaming him for false teachings. The Buddha simply sat, silent and present. Later, the man returned and apologized. "Why didn't you respond when I shouted?" The Buddha replied, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not take it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man said, "To the one who offered it." "Exactly," said the Buddha. "I chose not to receive your anger. Therefore, it stayed with you." The lesson is timeless. You do not have to accept a pass on what is toxic. Final reflection. The end starts with you. Your healing doesn't just change your life. It rewrites the story of those who come after you. You are not just your parents' wounds. You are not just your culture's habits. You are not your past reactions. You are the first breath in a new lineage. The stillness in a long echo of noise. And every time you pause, every time you sit with emotion instead of throwing it, every time you respond with love instead of reacting with pain, you are not just finding peace, you are planting it for generations to come. The most powerful way to end suffering is not to pass it on. Let the pain end with you. Let the wisdom begin with you. And in that pause, you become a teacher. Teaching number 7. Choose stillness over noise. Why silence wins the inner war. When emotions run high, the world will tempt you to react louder, speak faster, move harder. But what if your greatest power isn't in more action, but in stillness? In a world addicted to noise, stillness isn't emptiness. It's mastery. Inner noise is louder than outer chaos. Have you ever sat in a quiet room but still felt overwhelmed? That's because noise isn't always external. Sometimes the loudest battles are inside. Regret replaying like a broken record. Anger echoing someone else's voice. Anxiety whispering false futures into your chest. Buddhism teaches us that the mind is like water. When agitated, you can't see through it. But when still, everything becomes clear. Silence is not the absence of sound, it's the absence of resistance. Thich Nhat Hanh, Jakin. Zen story, The Warrior and the Monk. A warrior once approached a Zen master and asked, "Master, teach me how to defeat my enemies." The monk simply closed his eyes and said, "Be still. When your mind is still, your enemies will defeat themselves." Confused, the warrior left. But over time he realized, most battles are fueled by reaction. When he stopped responding to every insult, every provocation, the battles disappeared. Stillness had become his shield. Why silence wins? In Buddhist psychology, there's a concept called noble silence. It's not about suppressing truth. It's about choosing the right moment to speak or not to speak at all. Most people react out of ego, insecurity, habit. But a person rooted in stillness speaks with clarity, not compulsion. And that kind of speech rare, deliberate, and rooted in insight shifts reality. Real life example, the argument that never happened. Elena, a school teacher, used to respond to criticism instantly. Defensive, sharp, quick to prove her point. But after studying mindfulness, she began practicing pauses. One day, a parent sent a scathing email blaming her for their child's poor grades. Her old self would have fired back. Instead, she sat still for 10 minutes. She breathed. She waited. When she finally replied, her words were calm, understanding, and clear. The parent later thanked her, not because she defended herself, but because her silence broke the cycle of blame. Stillness changed the outcome. Stillness healed what noise would have broken. Buddhist practice, the inner bell. In some Buddhist monasteries, monks carry a small mindfulness bell. Whenever they feel anger, irritation, or confusion, they don't speak. They breathe and imagine the bell inside them ringing softly. Wait, witness, then choose. You can practice this too. You don't need a physical bell. Let your breath become the signal. Before you speak, post, argue, or judge, ask, is this coming from my peace or my pain? If it's pain, sit with it. If it's peace, speak from it. The deeper power of stillness. In stillness, you begin to hear the truth beneath your emotions. Anger becomes a cry for boundaries. Sadness becomes an invitation to grieve. Jealousy becomes a mirror to your unmet needs. Stillness doesn't suppress emotion, it translates it. Only in silence can you hear what your soul is truly saying. Buddhist reflection. Reflection. Be the still point in the storm. You don't have to match the world's chaos. You don't have to raise your voice to be heard. You don't have to act to prove your power. Stillness is not weakness. It's wisdom without noise. The ocean does not explain itself to the storm, and neither should you. In the silence of the heart, you meet your true self, and nothing can disturb you there. So be still, not because you're afraid, but because you finally remember. Stillness isn't what you do, it's what you are. Detachment is a daily practice, not a final destination. We often think of detachment like a mountain peak, something we climb to once and for all. But in truth, detachment isn't a summit. It's a practice, a daily, gentle choosing to release, to trust, to loosen your grip again and again and again, because life will keep handing you new things to let go of. A conversation that hurt, a dream that didn't unfold the way you imagined. A version of yourself you're still grieving. You may let go today and find yourself grasping again tomorrow. That's not failure, that's the practice. You only lose what you cling to. The Buddha. Every time you notice yourself clinging, you're given a gift. The opportunity to soften. Real life reflection. The stone in the pocket. A spiritual teacher once carried a small stone in his robe. Each morning, he would place it in his pocket and say, "Today, I will let go." Every time he touched it during stress, anger, or joy, it reminded him. Attachment is natural, but freedom is a choice. He didn't aim to never grasp again. He simply aimed to remember the freedom of letting go each moment he could. The Buddhist view. Buddhism doesn't demand that we eliminate desire instantly. It invites us to see desire as it arises, with mindfulness, to recognize our attachments with loving awareness, not self-punishment, and then, little by little, to loosen the thread. Letting go isn't about losing, it's about returning to what is real, what is whole, what is yours. The Enlightened Mind. Daily mantra. Repeat this in moments of tension. I don't have to control this. I just have to meet it with awareness and let it pass like a cloud across the sky. Detachment doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you love without fear. Final recap. The inner revolution of peace. Let's come full circle. You don't have to force the world to bend to your will. You don't have to chase peace, it's already within you. Every one of these teachings we explored, from awareness to right speech, from stillness to self-discipline, is a path back home, to your center, to your clarity, to your sacred stillness. Because emotional mastery in Buddhism isn't about being unshakable like stone. It's about flowing like water with depth, with grace, with wisdom. What you can remember from this journey: don't react, respond from awareness. Let go of control, trust the unfolding. Speak from stillness, not from fear. Feel deeply, but don't fuel the fire. Be the one who breaks emotional cycles. Choose the power of silence over noise, and practice detachment every single day. Your emotions don't have to rule you. They can guide you. And your peace? It's not out there. It's right here. Always has been. If this message stirred something in you, don't let it be just another video. Let it become a practice, a daily remembrance. Subscribe to The Enlightened Mind for weekly teachings that don't just inform you, they transform you. We'll be here in stillness, in truth, in peace, waiting to walk the next step with you. Until then, keep letting go, keep returning home,